Is wake up, speak up, and show up. We all wanted President Trump to do 80 million things to save our country. And what we've learned over these last couple of years, what we really need is 80 million of us doing one thing every single day to save our own country.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to be doing one thing each day to save your own country, you need to know what you're doing, which means you need the best advisors possible in every area of your life. When it comes to your health, when it comes to your children's education, even areas of your faith, when it comes to your finances, for sure, to be able to make intelligent decisions on your own and taking responsibility for your own outcomes. Now, there's a guy we've known for 25 years. We knew him before he even had his first college degree.
Yep.
And then we finished that. Then he got a PhD. Then he got another PhD. And that education has never been more relevant than it is right now, because one of them is in economics. And when it comes to understanding global politics, to things happening in the world, you need great advisors. And that's what today's show is all about, because we're going to do a deep dive with the one, the only Dr. Kirk Elliott.
Welcome to Flyover Conservative Podcast with David and Stacy Whited, where we break down current events and examine culture through the lens of conservative Christian values. So as you were talking about Reagan years, you were talking about Trump years, you're talking about obviously what's going on now. How do nations die? I mean, we're seeing kind of what's happening here in the United States. How has that happened in the past? Because we're not the only ones that have struggled. How does that happen?
So nations can die from external forces. Military comes in, destroys them, right? Mm-hmm. But I wrote an article and done some videos on basically paralleling the United States with the Roman Republic. Mm-hmm. So very fascinating, because the Roman Republic was huge. They had expanded all over the world, right? They
were doing well.
Big, huge, massive military, political clout. I mean, everything, right? Mm-hmm. But they eroded from within. They had lost their character. They had lost their ethics as a nation. And they started to erode from within. In fact, the Roman Republic, around 2,000 plus years ago, during the time of Christ time frame, mm-hmm. there was a guy who was running for a tribunal, which is like a governor mm-hmm. in the Roman Empire. His name was Claudius, and most influential politician of all time that nobody's ever heard of.
Okay.
I mean, really, hardly anybody's ever heard of this guy. It's like, well, what did he do? Yeah, what did he do that was so influential? Well, he decided, I really want this job. Mm-hmm. Really want to be this tribunal office. So I'm going to offer people free grain in exchange for votes.
Ah, heck of a deal.
I mean, seriously, they're still doing that today, whether it's free cell phone, free medical care, free things. I mean, using other people's money. And still to this day, politicians are mimicking what Claudius did to get elected. So
even Pedro, vote for me. All your hopes and dreams will come true.
Yes, even Pedro.
Even Pedro.
Sadly, we've got a lot of Pedros in office.
Yeah, most of them.
True.
Yeah. So what happened is, when Rome collapsed after years and years and years of this, 1/3 of the population of Rome was on government assistance. 1/3. Well, how much of America is getting Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, women, infant, children programs? Literally, how much do you think it is? 50%?
I would say
60?
At least 50, maybe 60.
Yeah, we're pushing 90%.
Oh my God.
And all you have to do to look at that is go to whitehouse.gov, look at the federal budget, and look at the amount of revenue that comes in is $4.8 trillion. Look at the amount of expenses, it's $6.8 trillion. So $2 trillion more than what we bring in. Mm-hmm. But of that $6.8 trillion, we're talking over $4 trillion of it is food stamps, women, infant, children, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, right? It's about close to 90% of everything that we bring in is going towards that. So there's no way that they're going, if they don't raise the debt ceiling, mm-hmm. right? If they want to cut the budget, they're going to cut from 90% of the people that are getting those expenses. That's what they cut from. Politicians don't want to do that. So when Rome fell, with 1/3 of the population living as, books have described it as parasites on the bureaucracy, mm-hmm. just taking. Opposite of what God calls us to do is be givers, right? Yep. So, and there's nothing wrong with giving to people. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with helping people, giving them a handout, a helping hand when time in need.
Absolutely.
That's what Christians are supposed to do. That's what churches are supposed to do. but I was talking to George Barna. This is about a decade ago, Christian pollster, and I asked the question. It's like, how much do people actually tithe? I said, well, I don't know.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of the church actually tithes, but I did actually do a study on how many of the church give. That could be $5 in the offering bucket at Easter.
Okay.
Not tithing, just actually giving a small amount. Well, it could be anything.
Give at all.
About 10%.
Oh.
Really?
10% of evangelicals and Catholics actually give.
Oh,
Give.
Man.
So this is the problem. This is what we are called to do. So there's this massive void.
Where do some of them struggle?
Yeah, there's this big void that's been created when the church isn't doing what the church is supposed to do. The government stepped in.
Mm-hmm.
So they just filled a need because we aren't doing what we're supposed to do.
Yep.
So now we've got this out of control because believers didn't do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
So where are we at now?
And we're blaming the government. It's like, well, they just stepped in.
Right.
But their problem is they're using other people's money to do it.
Yeah.
So where are we at as a country right now, percentage-wise?
Close to 90%.
I'm going to cheat here just a little bit because I have a really good resource called Thriving in the Economic Tsunami.
Right.
But you list in your book here, states let's see, how'd you exactly phrase it? Welfare payments, bringing citizens more money than they would have made working a full-time job. Minimum wage, job leaving residents, little reason to take entry-level employment. Hawaii, for example, which is a sweet place to live.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
$60,590 a year.
Colton's so good, he already has it up there.
You can make by not working. Washington, D.C., 50,820. Massachusetts, 50,400. Connecticut, 44,370. New York, 44,000. These are all. I do notice that these are all strong blue states.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is the common denominator. You got New Jersey, Rhode Island, Vermont, home of Bernie Sanders and Great Syrup, $42,000. California is $37,000. When I get down to Missouri, which is red from top to bottom, it is $22,800. It's third from the bottom of this.
Proud to be from Missouri.
Yeah,
That's good.
On that list. But when you look at that, why would people want to be productive, which is an integral part of your self-esteem?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's critical. I don't know. I can't speak for everybody or women. I don't know what it's like to be inside one or to be one. But as a man, you want to be productive. You want to produce. You want to be necessary. You want to be relevant. You want to, like, at the end of the day, I did something. We want to be able to provide for your family, even if you're just contributing. So forget about the decay from the inside of, like, you know what? I'm just paid to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a human paperweight, basically, for this couch. How can you have enough people that are producing that they have enough abundance to pay for the ones that aren't? How does that ever work out?
At some point, it just doesn't. I mean, you look at that list and you're talking about Missouri at $22,000. It's still more than what you would make in minimum wage in Missouri. Yeah. I mean, everybody that's on that list, you make more on handouts than you would with a minimum wage job. Not every state is on there, but the ones that are, that's where you make more. So imagine making almost $61,000 a year in Hawaii, sitting on the beach drinking a Mai Tai every single day, or whatever they would want to do. If you go even get a part-time job, you start losing that. So why? Why would you? I mean, for me, it's unfathomable. I have to create. I have to work. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of society that said I can just do nothing and keep making. This is where welfare has gotten out of control. Mm-hmm. It should be a Band-Aid. It should be I know that you just lost your job. Let's get you some unemployment here for a bit. Hopefully get back on your feet.
There's a strong push right now by the Republicans. And again, if people watch our show, I beat up on Republicans about the same amount as I beat up pastors, which is a lot, because I figure those are our tribe and I expect a lot from those guys. But on a good side, they are pushing for, if you are out of work for a period of time and you're receiving a benefit, then you should be in a program to gain a skill or volunteering within an organizational structure somewhere. 20 hours a week was the pitch.
Right.
And it was shot down hard, fast, and cold by the Democrats. Didn't even make it out of their mouth hardly. But again, I kind of go back to the value inside. If you're receiving something and you're like, man, I am in a bad spot. I took a step back. I was in this field and now, you know what? They don't even need me anymore. Whatever, the world changed. If you're learning a new skill, you're learning how to do something else. Like there's now hope, you know, in your life. Seems like that would be like a gift that you can't even see or touch in our culture of people having value, you know, their self-esteem, of their like, man, you know what? Because everybody needs some version of this. I believe next year is going to be better than this year, and I'm doing something now to make it so.
Yeah.
You know, some version of that. You need that, which is opposite of the news. The news is saying next year is going to be worse than this year, and there's nothing you can do about it. So just take drugs and play video games.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of the Yuval Harari kind of angle. Like the idea of keeping people productive in that process, it would seem fundamentally necessary to an ongoing thriving culture.
Well, I wouldn't listen to anything Harari says. I mean, he thinks we're a bunch of useless eaters.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, that's their view of people.
I'm like, I'm not useless.
I am an eater.
I am half right.
You can tell I'm an eater, but I'm not useless, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, don't call me useless.
so everything that we're talking about is a progression towards more and more globalist control of our lives, right? There's this push towards universal basic income. That's going to make the welfare state even bigger. I was talking to Rudy Giuliani a couple days ago. In Manhattan, they just passed a bill for $1,000 a month for single moms in Manhattan. Just
They're just giving him $1,000.
Just giving it to them.
If you're single.
There's really no way to. They're not making them verify that they're a single mom. I mean, it's just okay. You go and say, "Yeah, I'm a single mom. Here's $1,000, right? A month."
Wow.
Where is the state going to get that from?
Yeah.
I mean, if the federal government, I know where the federal government gets it, they'll just go to the printing press. States don't have a printing press. States have to raise taxes to generate money. So you think New York is a high tax state now? Oof.
Ooh.
What about California and the reparations bill and wanting to pay people from the black community over $1 million because of things that happened in the past, right? It's like, where's that going to, where is this close to $1 trillion going to come from? There's going to be a mass exodus out of California. Now you're going to have fewer people in California to pay taxes because they're not going to want to be taxed so there's no tomorrow.
Right.
See, this is the end of society as we know
so
it.
Is
right?
that how a society dies?
That's how society dies. It starts with an absence of character, an absence of ethics, causes people to start making bad decisions, wanting to be a victim mentality. It's like, you owe me, right? This is what the people in Rome wanted. They said, you owe us, and what we owe you is a vote in exchange for this. That's how it started. But it gets worse and it gets worse and it progresses until now you don't even recognize society. We don't recognize the country that the founding fathers started.
I'm sad.
Yeah, it's insane. But with the federal government, they have a printing press to pay for all of this stuff. Now we're paying the piper for excessive debt. Because it's easy to give something, it's really hard to take it away once you've politically made it happen.
Sure, then people expect it.
Correct.
It's just part of everything they do.
Correct.
So you got Rome. Did the same thing happen in Venezuela, Zimbabwe? I mean, is it pretty much the similar?
Dr. Melissa Tate, you know, I mean, she grew up, Zimbabwe was a thriving country.
They called it the breadbasket.
The breadbasket of Africa. They had huge aircrafts taking off every morning all over Europe from Zimbabwe full of flowers.
Right.
You know, like supply
them everywhere,
flowers, bread, grain, things all over the world. And within, well, one person got elected, devalued their currency, and literally
it wasn't very long.
Within like a 90-day window, it's a ludicrous number. It was like a 1,000,000% or something inflated. It was like ludicrous.
Oh, it's
like
it's insane.
Like literally a shopping. Her mother's retirement fund, which was the equivalent of like she had like about $150,000 in, you know, in this IRA, would buy you a cart of groceries like that quick. You know, the exchange rate was the equivalent of what in our money would be about $150,000. You could buy groceries with it, one cart. And she said, while you're in the store, they didn't put any prices because it was changing so fast.
Right. The same thing happened in Weimar Republic, Germany after World War I. Germany won the war, right? They bombed the living daylights out of the world. Treaty of Versailles came in, said, hey, Germany, you got to repay the war debts. It's like, what? And so they couldn't afford it. So they abandoned the gold standard, printed money like there was no tomorrow. That caused hyperinflation so big that people had to be paid in wheelbarrows full of cash twice a day because a loaf of bread would double from lunch to dinner time.
Wow.
So it can happen anywhere, and it always happens from bad policy. Like the two examples that we just talked about, take the politics out of it. You can either agree or disagree with paying single moms in New York $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
You can either agree or disagree with the reparations bill in California. Immaterial. Doesn't matter. The point is, economically, is where does this money come from?
Right.
They're either going to tax the living daylights out of people, or because sometimes you pay for good things. You might say, I love these ideas. Great, but it's still going to cost money that states or governments don't have. So when you start to see that, whether the outcome is good or bad, if it's money that you don't have and you have to print it or tax it, it's going to impact the economy in a negative way. Everything costs something. And we're at the point where our society is collapsing because of the weight of the entitlement system.
It's changed so much so fast in our lifetime. I remember Stacy making this comment, I don't know, years ago. We were probably 25. She's like, if somebody made $100,000 a year, now granted, we probably never made 25 in our lifetime at this point. If somebody made $100,000 a year, like you could probably buy an island or something.
I thought maybe, you could buy St. Thomas or something, or St. John.
Like one of these, one of the little ones around it or something. Like
something.
It was just an astronomical amount of money. And you had referenced like somebody, the term was somebody who was a six-figure earner.
Right.
And that was like an elite.
That was a big deal.
That was an elite thing. You were probably the president of a bank or something, or you owned
it was a big deal.
You owned the car dealership, or there weren't very many people that maybe a household might make that, but not an individual earning $100,000 a year. And I mean, boy, has that shifted, now, to where like, what can you get with $100,000? Well, some of these states, I don't know how you would live in New York on less than $100,000 a year. Like you see the show Friends of like, I don't know how you have a 3-bedroom apartment and you're a waiter, in New York City. I don't care if they have rent control or not. It's like you couldn't live in San Francisco. You couldn't live in LA, and unless you're just renting a closet from somebody, without the places where the policies you're talking about have had a chance to really gain foothold. $100,000 a year is just going to help you just live indoors.
Yeah.
I mean, which sounds crazy. And part of it is that, minimum wage, they got that going to $20 an hour in some places. And it's just, ludicrous. We could make minimum wage $300 an hour. It's irrelevant because then, okay, great.
And how much are your hamburgers costing?
Yeah.
And,
you're gonna pay $50 for a cheeseburger, at McDonald's drive-thru. So like it all kind of, we've seen it though. This isn't over a long period of time. We would talk to our grandparents or somebody and say, hey, gas used to be a dime, I used to make 25 cents an hour. Like,
well, you just said you got a hamburger for 25 cents.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
that's like, are you kidding me?
But instead of taking decades and decades for the shift, we're seeing it now within just a few years of it, like the whole deck being shuffled and how much things cost. Speaking of F-150s, a diesel F-250, a new one next year, a 2024, they're already listing them over $110,000.
I mean, it's insane.
For a truck, a pickup truck.
I don't know how people can afford this. Jolene and Caden and I went to LA for some meeting, and we were just driving around Beverly Hills, and we saw this apartment building, and it was a dive. I mean, literally a dive. And it said 1-bedroom apartments starting at $4,500 a month. It's like,
what?
I mean, and it was a dump.
That's
I wouldn't want to live in it.
Yeah.
And it was $4,500 a month.
Wow.
I mean, it is so unsustainable. I don't know how people in those states can afford to live either. I mean, you go to Missouri where we are now. It's like, $4,500 a month for rent. You're going to get the Taj Mahal of
right.
You
you
got a pool. You got a dock. You got a lake with a dock or something. I don't know. Your dog has a nice house in the back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at inflation. We're looking at all of these things. So protecting yourself against inflation, you're going to do that through metals, through something tangible.
Yes.
Silver, gold. How about protecting an IRA?
Same thing. If metals can protect you outside of an IRA, metals can protect you inside of an IRA, right? So, but the key is we're not talking about ETFs, mining shares, mutual funds, anything like that. We're talking about physical metals. So the same gold or silver that you would store outside of an IRA, you can store inside of an IRA.
Okay.
So it's just it's a tax-free rollover from IRA to IRA, but allocate into something that's solid.
Okay.
Right. So outside of an IRA, though, like in the gold world, you can do some of those rare historied, storied coins, the semi-numismatic rare garbage. Don't ever do that. You can't do that kind of stuff inside of an IRA.
Okay.
David, nor can you do like that piece of garbage that you have on the desk
I did
there.
bring this up. I didn't really show the world here, but this is something somebody gave me. It says Second Amendment on it. It's made out of metal of some kind. It's not chocolate, but it is.
Nor is it gold.
Nor is it gold.
Yeah.
Nor would
Exactly.
you probably want to touch it now.
Because you just bit it.
Because it's been in my mouth. But, but you see these things around a lot.
Well, you see those things around everywhere. It's like a replica.
Yeah.
And I've seen commercials for it. Get this amazing Trump coin for $29.95, 3 equal payments. So and it says pure gold. It's like, wait a second, it's not pure gold.
Right.
Well, it's pure. It's
right?
pure gold plated of some sort, right?
That's
So
really good
listen to the words, but anything, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. I mean, I tell clients this all the time. $120, you're not getting 1 ounce of gold, and gold is $2,000 an ounce.
No.
Even if this were gold all the way through, 24 karat or 20 karat, right? It's like 90% gold. All right. It's probably going to sell for something much greater than bullion prices because it's got some kind of a story to it.
Right. Yep.
The only time a story is important to anybody is the first person who buys it.
Yeah.
Right?
You're the first person.
True.
Everybody else, it's like, oh, I don't care if that was sentimental to you.
Yeah.
I just want it for the gold content.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why people never really make out of it. Now, if you're a collector, go ahead and buy some of that stuff. I don't want to say that it's garbage when somebody's collecting it and they want a collection and they never plan on selling it. But I'm not a collector. I'm an investor.
Right.
I bought a bunch of coins. We're in Israel recently. I probably bought 30 coins or something like that. And they're, little widow's mites or this and that. There are all kinds of different currencies from different, the coin itself has probably no value because the culture that was backing it is now gone.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a neat thing to me. It's kind of cool. I got a story. I have no intention of like, I'm going to go on eBay and sell this for something. It's like, hey, here's some coins. This is a thing from this country. This is a thing from here. They all kind of got a little story to them, but they're only interestingly valuable.
That's it. It tells a story. It tells the story of your trip.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Because the little widow's mite, it looks kind of cool. It's got some kind of a worn off engraving on it. It's not totally round and it's like a piece of copper and it's like cool little story. And now you can tell a story about your trip, but that's all it's really good for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I kind of look at a lot of those things like that. Now, if you probably go back to that little widow and she got like the $20 that I got for her and converted that her thing she made, she might have done pretty good.
Yeah.
But again, that's time.
Correct.
And time is sort of what is this magical, invisible force that can create wealth or not. It's what makes a cup of coffee become a $2 million asset. Or just, I was highly caffeinated for the last 40 years, or it is kind of, it works. That's what makes, if you were to go back to 1920 and have a shoebox full of $20 bills or a shoebox full of one ounce coins of gold, it's like that time from now to then is what makes that gold so valuable, that we can really harness and leverage to our advantage, and beat inflation. But if not, inflation is like this monster that never sleeps, that is eating up. It's like, what's the verse about, you talked about earlier in Malachi about the locusts coming and eating and destroying. It's like, it's like that. It decays things at the bones of our society itself.
It is. It's the biggest hidden tax on Americans or anybody around the globe ever. The government might be magic in the sense of they can take a perfectly valuable piece of paper, put some ink on it and make it worth nothing. Seriously, it's just wild, but yet they do. So this is where, as wise and prudent investors, we need to start shifting our normalcy bias of what we thought in the past. Oh, stocks have always been good in the past, therefore they're going to be good in the present and in the future. Buy and hold for the long term and it'll always go up. Is that a true statement? Kinda. The stocks are higher than they were in 2009. They're higher than they were in 2000 after those corrections. However, there's a better way to do it. It's like, why would you ride something up and ride it back down and then ride it up and ride it back down when you can identify those intermediate trends, sell at the intermediate high, get out of it and go into something that's lower, write it up, sell it, and then just keep doing that. Maximize your growth. Be the wise steward that God created us to be. Even people who just sit in the cash on the sideline and cash. It's like, I don't want to lose everything I've worked so hard. I want God to be happy with me. It's like, oh, well, Jesus told a story about this.
He did.
It's like, he had the 3 servants and the one did really good. Then there was like the middle one. And then the one who was afraid buried his talents in the sand because he didn't want to lose what God had given him. It's like, but what did Jesus call him in this parable?
Wicked.
Yeah, he didn't call him the dumb servant. He called him the wicked servant. That's worse than dumb.
Yep.
Right? It's like I don't want to be the wicked one.
Exactly.
We have to be a wise steward with any of our talents, with our voice, with our brain, with our giving, with our heart, with our love, with our finances.
Yep.
Don't hide what God has given you because he wants you to multiply it.
Exactly.
Because he is a God of abundance in all things.
I want to kind of shift to another topic here real quick. And more is like Dr. Kirk Elliott, the businessman. And I want to kind of create a backdrop for this of you've been an employee in many, when I first met you, you were like doing like roofing jobs in the summer, going to college, and so you've done manual labor, you've had, stock, kind of jobs, you've had, worked for other companies, you've worked for yourself. As believers in this time, I want to talk about it because I've had the privilege of meeting quite a few people that work for you. I'm sure I could probably, if I did enough interviews, find one of them that don't like you, but you run your company in a really unique way. You invest heavily into the people that are with you, into their mindsets, into how they're thinking. Like if my kids didn't work for me and they had to work somewhere, like working for Clay Clark for a year would be a great thing. He'd rough them up and they would, learn a lot of skills. They could work for you for a year. If they did that for 1 year and they wanted to, I know they'd be better, because of it. We have a little philosophy as Whiteds, and it's like this goal of leave every person in place a little better than you found it. You have the ability to do that everywhere. If you walk, we'll even do this, like the grocery store, there's all these lines of like, we'll stop for a second. Like, who are we going to bless? And I'm not going to like suck up to somebody, but I know I'm going to be a nice customer checking out in this line.
Sure.
I'm going to leave them better than you found.
I'm going to thank you for helping me with this. This is, I'm going to like give more than I took, in that exchange. We all have the ability to do that. Talk about running your company. What are some of the philosophies that you have as a Christian business leader with a lot of employees? What is your role before God on how you steward that platform?
Great question.
It's really easy. Yet really hard. The easy part is just be the biggest servant in the room.
That's huge.
I just want to be known as the biggest servant in the room. I lead from the bottom up, not from the top down, right? I want to uplift. I want to encourage. I want to empower everybody that works for me. So how do you do that? You lead by example. I'm always the first one there, the last one to leave, right? Everyone on my executive team. It's almost like we try to fight to be the first one there and the last one to leave, right? And it's because we love doing what we do. It's not like we have to, we get to. So when I hire people, I look for character and ethics first, because that's something that you can't train. It's something that you either have or you don't. Now, you could be the most character, have the most character, the most ethics of anybody on the planet, and you're dumber than a stump. I'm not going to hire that person.
Right.
Some things you can't coach.
Or you could be the biggest brainiac in the world and have no character and ethics. I'm still not going to hire that person. But when you have both of them, now you've got the start to something great. Then at that point, it doesn't still mean that you're going to be good. It means you have all the ingredients that you could be amazing. So then you just invest in people, you invest in them. We encourage them. My team meetings, I have a motivational speech every week.
Which has kind of become legendary and epic.
Yeah, it may even become a book.
It might become a book. I've got a publisher that wants to actually write a book about my weekly motivational messages, right? Where, they're not big, grand, monologues. They're like 8 to 10 minutes, uplifting message. How can we be better? How can we be better servants? When we're gone, I want to be known as the best giver, the best server in the world. That's our goal.
Yep.
And so that's what we instill into each and every one of our employees. Now, if they don't know something, they all have an open door policy to come and ask. It's like, I don't think that you're going to be dumb if you ask questions. just ask. I'm going to think you're dumb if you don't ask.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is the thing. People have to swallow their pride. The one thing that repulses me more than anything is pride.
Explain that. I would agree, but what's that look like to you?
Somebody who will never ask questions, somebody who's embarrassed, somebody who walks around the room like they own the place, right? Somebody who just has this arrogance about them, and you can feel it. It's like the energy in the room shifts when they walk in. It's like, oh, they're here. You know, I wanted to say, ooh, awesome, they're here.
Right.
I love being around them. And then there's some people that are just a drain because they command all the attention and they look and say, oh, look at me, rather than how can I help other people?
It's obvious too. I mean, it's important to God. God talks about the importance of humility. And it's interesting, over this last week in the prophetic report this week, 3 different times humility was brought up, that we need to be humble. This is the time that we really need to be humble. So it's really interesting that you say that.
I mean, it's what's built our company the way that it is. We will bend over backwards to help people. And one thing is, we never know what somebody's story is. We never know why they're having a bad day, because you can grumble and complain. It's like, why'd they treat me so poorly? It's like, you don't know what they're going through. Yeah. They might have just, been cheated on by a spouse. They might have just lost a family member. They might have just lost their job. They're having a bad day. Operate in grace, operate in mercy, just love your neighbor, right? And that's how we operate. I mean, literally everybody at my firm operates in that, because how can I say that? Because that's what I look for when I hire them. Right. And if they don't have it, they don't get hired. Right. And so then the rest, the training comes in, and really we have an amazing team. And then we like to promote from within. Like, once we find somebody that's in a position, it's like, I think you're better suited for another position, right? We don't have to look for somebody else. We just move them into that position, and we just keep hiring, growing. And our firm is exploding. It has. I mean, it's absolutely exploding. And that's just a blessing. So humility to me, if you read through Exodus, what is one of the first chapters or verses in Exodus say? It's like, Moses is one of the most humble men of all time, basically. Who wrote Exodus? Moses. It's like, so what was he saying in that? Yeah. So people would say, well, that's not humble. That's pride. What he was saying is, I am nothing outside of God. Yeah. But with God, I can do anything. Yeah. See, that's extreme humility, knowing that. And it's like, I can't do anything without God, and the gifts and the talents and the abilities that he's given me, and the love that he's given me for other people, right? It's like, that's where we are.
And it's reflected, though, in the people around you. We had a saying, in business, people in our kind of past world, a lot of coaching, franchise owners, and a lot of this space, people kind of, what's this secret? What's this thing where I can move ahead? And I'm like, just invest in people. Like our idea was always, we would build people and people would build the company, versus I'm building a company and I need some people, and that's what I love Clay Clark so much is I've been around him for a couple of years, and I've seen 2 things happen. I've seen some of these young men and women that work for him that are in their 20s that are now in a position where they're following his coaching advice. They're buying rental properties. They're making twice as much money on the side as they do working. They're excelling. For Clay. They're building wealth because he teaches these business workshops as well. That's his main thing before COVID and the government thing happened. He would teach, business principles. So these guys he's anointed for it. He's anointing for business and teaching. So these employees are all they work long hours. He's up at 3 a.m. going hard and this kind of stuff. But these guys are making, building wealth outside of that. And I've seen the other thing happen. Ones that have been with him for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Like, eventually they just leave and they run their own big companies. Right. And like, he launches them better off, almost like a great NFL coach will have these like coaching trees of coaches that left them and then they win Super Bowls and go on. Like the people that stay, now again, not all stay, because some don't make it a week because they're like, tough. They're like, oh, whoa, like they really work, and they maybe they're not used to that, then that kind of accountability, but they thrive. One of our best friends had a son that was considering going to college, wasn't 100% sure why I want to go and what I want to do. We're like, hey,
knew you want to do business.
Hey, why don't you just take time out for 1 year and like just work for Clay for a year? and like just see where you're at in 12 months.
It's been so good for him. He is doing great.
Oh, it's just he's thriving, and it's kind of roughed him up, and he's working hard, and he's like, oh, I'm learning all these new skills and how to do these things, but it's gotten better. And I see that you have some people in your company that I've met are like 23, 24, 25 that I would hire, put in charge of like anything. They're some of the most competent, high performing people in the world. But to me, that's a reflection of a culture.
It is, and I'm blessed, and my team makes me a blessed person, right? I'm blown away by them. But the biggest secret weapon that we have is Joe, my wife.
Yeah, wow.
Because there's constant prayer. There's constant prayer.
Huge.
I mean, may not be doing day-to-day stuff at the firm, but we go home, we talk about what we're doing, and we bring Holy Spirit empowered wisdom into the company, and it's been years, decades of prayer.
Wow.
What we're seeing today didn't just happen. And it doesn't happen by accident. It happened with Holy Spirit guidance, prayer, taking leaps of faith, calculated risks, never stupid risks, right? Calculated risks when Holy Spirit tells you to do something, it might not make sense logically, but it makes sense because God says to do it, right? But yeah, that's when you have like you two joining together in prayer for guidance, for wisdom, for courage, for boldness, for empowerment. It's amazing what can happen. And what we have today is a reflection of that. The people that we've hired is a reflection of we're praying for the best people, and God brings them to us. And it's just, I wouldn't know how to run it any other way.
I love that. Something I shared we had the Pastors for Trump prayer meeting in Miami. And I was talking about the power of prayer and prayer. I mean, God told me several years ago, it's impossible to pray and for something not to happen. It's interesting. Colton, obviously Colton, Flyover family. If you don't know Colton,
so people meet him at the event, like,
son.
You're producer Colton?
Yeah. Wow.
He's become this thing.
Yeah. Well,
producer Colton.
When he was in his late teens, early 20s, he was going on a missions trip to Costa Rica. And there was going to be a team of 30 people that were going. And obviously, it costs money. And that was a concern for most of the people that are going on the missions trip is how am I going to get this money? But the person leading the trip said, don't worry about the money. That will come. But what you have to do is you actually have to get 10 intercessors, 10 people. Each person had to get 10 people that are going to be praying for you while you're in Costa Rica and praying for our trip. And so they all went out. They got their 10 intercessors, and the money came, of course. So they go to Costa Rica, and before they even go to minister their first time, they're at this church, and they're eating a meal together with some of the people, and they're serving. And one of the ladies comes along, and she had this growth underneath of her chin. And the leader leading the trip tapped the growth and said, not on my watch. And they all watched this growth underneath this lady's chin disappear.
Like on the spot.
On the spot.
Amazing.
And they were like.
Actually, their table eating, Colton says they were eating there like.
And Colton said,
this
is going to be unlike any ministry trip
Whoa.
I've ever been on.
Because, it's easy in the church world to be like, let's pray for God's will and God's blessings and God's comfort, but you don't want to paint God in the corner, to look like a loser if they don't get healed. Like you don't pray for something to happen in that moment. Typically in most situations.
Exactly. And so
that boldness.
Yeah, that boldness. And Colton said, everybody looked and they're like, wow,
Whoa.
Okay, this is going to be an amazing trip. So they got done eating and they were getting ready to go out and minister. And she reminded them, she said, okay, there's 30 of us that are going out to minister. But she said, there's 300 that are actually partnered with us that are praying right now. We're going to see amazing
Spartans!
things. Exactly. And Colton said they saw miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. And it became very obvious to us. We actually have 11 intercessors that pray for the Flyover Conservatives team. And we have seen miracle after miracle after miracle. And we can tangibly feel prayer. Prayer is powerful. And that's why I think it's so important. That's why I was talking about at the Pastors for Trump meeting that we need to be praying for President Trump. We need to be praying for our country. When we are linking arms, we're going to see miracles. And that's exactly what you're saying. Right. When you and Joe are praying for your company, you are seeing Holy Spirit come and you're seeing miracles that are happening. And it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. And that's our expectation.
Yeah.
I don't expect anything different. And that's not an arrogance. That's a humility that I can't do it on my own, but God can do anything. And that's what we expect.
I love it. That's incredible.
Last little word of encouragement. We said thriving at the beginning, thriving in the economic tsunami. we've talked a lot from everything from like reaping and sowing to principles. We talked about the 70, 10, 10, 10. We've talked about all these ideas. What do you see for potentially America thriving? We don't have a ton of control over that. We can pray for it. But then B, two-tiered question. What's the advice you have for the people listening to thrive as we wrap up?
I don't see really bright days for America in the near future. I think it gets darker before it gets lighter, but I do think that it gets lighter. Mm-hmm. You know, like we've talked about in earlier shows, I believe central bank digital currency is probably the mark of the beast, but yet I don't think that it's going to be the only game in town. So as we thrive, simply put, if you want to have a maximized future, maximize every day. Identify the trends that are going up and get into them as soon as you can. Identify the ones that are going down and get out of them as soon as you can. That's what we help people do, right? But Holy Spirit will guide you when you pray about it. I mean, James tells us, if you lack wisdom, ask for it. Mm-hmm. God will give it to you. He's a generous Father.
He gives abundantly.
Yep. And he gives more than what you ask for, right? Because that's his nature. So
was Jesus' brother, by the way.
Right.
You know, I mean, you got to keep that in context. I mean, he's speaking with some confidence.
Yep.
Yeah. He's seen it. He experienced it, right? And so I do think it's going to get darker. We're going to see some economic turmoil. But Jesus told us it's not necessarily comfortable going to following me. It's just going to be beneficial, right? The hard choices. Make hard choices. Don't be afraid of making the hard choices. And just watch what God starts to do. But I think we need to have community of like-minded people around us. We need to pray like our life depends on it, because it always does. We have to focus on the solution rather than the storm, because if you focus on the storm, you're going to be gripped with fear and paralyzed by it. Focus on the solution, you'll have a smile on your face. See, all of this is part of a thriving mentality. But financially, you know, this is primarily what I do. It's pretty easy right now. In the past, there was all kinds of options. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds during the Trump years, Reagan years, they all did great. Real estate did great during that time. Now, with rising interest rates, rising taxes, rising inflation, lowering wages, the only thing that makes sense, and I hate to be a one-trick pony, but it really is the only thing that makes sense, are tangible assets like gold and silver, and I would do silver. So financially, I would go into precious metals for this time, you know, for such a time as this. At some point, we'll sell, lock in our profits, go into something else. Now, during this time, we're going to see political chaos, and this is where through Holy Spirit guidance, don't believe everything that you hear, right? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that this is going to happen, that's going to happen, and the Word tells us, you know, in these times, there's going to be a lot of people that say things that aren't true. Have wisdom and discernment and guidance to sift through that. Because, man, I've got people that call me every day who think the world is ending tomorrow. The world is not ending tomorrow. No. Might get bad, might be better, but it's not ending tomorrow.
It's just changing.
It's just changing. You know, when the Roman Republic fell, did the people go away? No. Is Italy still there as a landmass? Yep. It's just not the Roman Republic. It's now Italy.
Right.
And other nations around it that, I mean, so it's different. Are we still going to be around? Yes. Is America collapsing? Well, yeah, I don't know how it looks in the future, but we will still be here. We're still going to have neighbors that need Jesus. We're still going to have a light to shine. And the darker the world gets, the less light that it needs to light it up. Right. Yeah. You don't have to be this amazing, bold, courageous, great orator. You don't have to be a public speaker. You just have to love your neighbor.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and that's it. So anyways, I think this is how you can start to thrive, is by helping your neighbors and being that voice of hope when people need it. And for us, there is hope in your finances, and we're helping people get to that point. But God needs a willing bride that wants to serve, and that wants to bless, and that wants to give, And that's what this is all about.
I love it.
I thank you for writing this book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you get done everything that you get done.
Neither do I. I really don't.
Crazy.
Between, you have kids, you got Joe, you got Ted, your Cavapoo.
Yeah. He's a sweet little guy.
He's sweet, but he's kind of the boss. Around there.
He thinks he rules the roost.
Yeah. And but you took time to write Thriving in the Economic Tsunami. Flyover family, I strongly encourage you to go out, get a copy of this book, and not just one, but get one for people that you know and care about. Not because I know how book business works. You're not like pretending on hey, you're going to be padding your pockets in the future through book sales.
Right.
That is not, it's like a business card. It's just, you want these out there, but it's full of a lot of ideas that are going to help you and the people around you. When you got people that are fearful, get this book in their hands, because it's not denying there is a tsunami coming. Jamie Dimon says that, of Chase Bank, and we started with that. But if you want to thrive in the economic tsunami, the tips are in here. It's full of wisdom, advanced and basic economic information from a double PhD. Thanks for taking the time to write this, because you're putting the information in people's hands, then they're empowered to run with it, which eliminates fear.
And then Flyover family, you can go to flyovergold.com. It's a landing page, great information. When you scroll down to the bottom, there's a place you can fill out your information. When you do that, someone from Dr. Kirk's team will get a hold of you to help answer questions that you have. It's absolutely free, help you make the best decisions for your family so you can sleep at night. Or you can also call 720-605-3900. Do it today. Don't wait. I promise you, you're going to be thankful for it. Kirk, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We really appreciate it. This has been a blast. Are you having a hard time sleeping at night, thinking, what am I going to do about my finances?
Times are really changing. They're changing fast. Let me give you a quick example of how. In 1920, if you had a $20 bill and 1 ounce of gold, you could go into any men's clothing store and buy an entire suit. You could buy the jacket, the shirt, the belt, shoes, the whole bit. Today, that $20 bill, what's it going to get you?
Not much.
Maybe the socks, maybe a handkerchief, but the 1 ounce of gold could still buy you the entire suit at any men's store in America. That's the difference. That's what inflation does to your dollar. It's a deflating dollar caused by inflation. Now today, that's happening faster than ever. You need somebody that you trust that can help get you out of a fake currency and into something that's going to keep you safe.
And we know a guy that has 2 PhDs by the name of Dr. Kirk Elliott. We have known him for over 25 years, and he's someone we completely trust.
You need somebody that you can get a hold of, somebody that's going to be there for you to get back out of it, and then maybe back into the stock market, maybe back into something else when things settle down. But right now is not that time. You need somebody that you trust and somebody you can call and make those worries go away.
That's exactly right. So you can go to flyovergold.com, fill out your information for a free consultation, or you can call 720-605-3900. Do it today.
You'll be glad you did.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
We will shut you down. We will cite you. And if we need to, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Period.
I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this.
But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
God actually spoke to me. He spoke about sacredness. He said to me, Kim, what I place in many, many people is sacred. And if anybody touches what is sacred to me, then it is the end for them. So what I've done in the United States of America is sacred. And there are people on every side that are trying to destroy what I deem sacred. And it's not going to happen.
This is the definition of criminal conspiracy, racketeering, and collusion. This is not a theory. This is evidence.
Because I have upheld this country to spread the light to the rest of the world. When you choose to go against the sacred thing that God put into the very heart and the soil of this nation, this was sacred to God.
This ReAwaken tour is literally what it means. It has reawakened the American heart.
have a brand new sponsor for the Flyover Conservative Show, Heaven's Harvest. So exciting.
We've been really excited about this partnership because for about 2 years now, our level of awareness has increased on things that can go wrong in the world. Not just the big major stuff, but ice storms in Texas and things that, you know, you don't plan on. And I guess a level of personal responsibility of like, hey, we have people that we care for that depend on us. And so we've been tiptoeing into it, but it's overwhelming. It's like, what do I do next? And so we've made little steps in that process, but we've been asking everyone we know, everyone we respect in this space, hey, who's a good supplier of things? Who has food that you would actually eat if you had to, that without eating styrofoam that you'd be gagging down if you lost a bet? You know, like real actual food that if you put it away for storage, that when it came time to do it would be palatable, as well as heirloom seeds. You know, a lot of the seeds nowadays, you plant them, they're not, you can't reproduce with them. You know, they've been genetically modified and really messed up. So we've been asking people we really respect. Somebody we get a lot of advice from personally, and we've made a lot of small moves in our life from, is Seth Holhouse with Man in America. And we kind of went off of his lead as well as some others. And so we are super excited about this partnership because they're willing to give a massive discount to the Flyover family.
That's exactly right. When you go to heavensharvest.com and you use promo code Flyover, you get 10% off. What a great deal. We are so thankful and excited about this partnership.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0. When I invented My Pillow, it had everything you'd ever want in a pillow. Well, now there's new technology that makes it even better. My Pillow 2.0 has my patented fill combined with a cooling fabric with temperature regulating thread. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit MyPillow.com.
Do your feet ache and throb in pain with every step you take every day of your life? Well, kiss those days goodbye with slippers from MyPillow.com. How about that flimsy, flat little excuse for a pillow that's nothing but 8 hours of disappointment, causing you pain in your neck every single night? You can wake up with nothing but butterflies and rainbows around your head with a MyPillow pillow. Those hardwood floors hurting your old bones? No more with a MyPillow dog bed. Are your towels worn thin, flimsy, more patchy than Joe Biden's memory? There's nothing better than absorbent towels from MyPillow.com. For all of these products and more, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code Flyover for up to 66% off.
For more great content, go to flyoverconservatives.com.